Hey everyone, welcome back to another video. My name's Steve. In today's video, I'm going to look at 3 devalued supercars I nearly bought instead of my 992 Carrera. Before I put the deposit down on my 992, I did have a look around at the second-hand market. I've never actually had enough money to be able to finance a car like this before, and I wanted to see what else was available before I went ahead. The inner child in me, like most other people, went straight for one of the 2 brands you probably would have thought of. What Ferrari can I get for the money? What Lamborghini can I get for the money? I've always been a Ferrari person. I've always liked Ferraris, and the first thing that I went looking for was a Ferrari. So I went looking, and the first car that I picked out was the F430. That was one of the newest ones I could find that was in the price range. But when I had a look, it was an early model, 2005, and I was thinking, well, you got that much money to spend, is there anything newer? Can you get a newer one? So the next car I looked at, and I just put the value into Auto Trader to see what would come up under Ferrari. And the next cars that were coming down extremely quickly in price were the Ferrari Californias. Now, I'm not a convertible guy, but these have got a folding hard roof, and I just thought, oh, it's got all the newest Ferrari technology on it, maybe I should take a look at that. But then I started thinking, well, you know, you're looking at the F430, you want that mid-engine car? Everybody wants a mid-engine supercar. That's the whole thing about a supercar, isn't it? You get to see the engine through the back window. So what was newer that was mid-engine that I could get my hands on at that price range? And I ended up looking at an Audi R8. Again, couldn't afford a new one, but I could get a one that was 3 or 4 years old. So those are the 3 cars I picked out. I decided I was going to have a look at the costs of them at the time and see whether I could afford them, see what the bills were going to be like. So like the last video I just did, where it was 5 running costs for the 992, I went through exactly the same 5 costs on these cars, and I wanted to see how they compared to the 992. Obviously, when I went looking for these cars, I did it back in September last year. Prices don't seem to have moved too much. So what I did was I went back on Auto Trader, I put in the value at 100 grand, and I went down until I found cars that were a reasonable spec that were under the 85 grand mark, and I got as close as I could. So 3 cars are as follows. This is the F430, this is the Ferrari California, and this is the Audi. So with this exercise, all I'm doing really is showing you the 3 cars that I went for. Wouldn't be particularly the specs I probably would have chosen, but it's just so you can see the age, you can see the spec, and I can run through the 5 different costs and show you how they compare to the 992. So what I've done is I've compiled the initial specs that I think are important when you're looking at cars, and I've pinged them up on the screen there now. What we've got is the year that it was made, how old it is now, the horsepower, the 0 to 60, and then 2 things I think are important, which is width and wheelbase. From my point of view, the wheelbase is important because I've got a parking space in a block of flats, and the entrance to my car park is actually a little bit of a ramp. Fortunately, the Cayman that I had has got similar wheelbase to the 911, so I knew that the 911 was going to be alright. But as you can see, those other 3 cars have actually got longer wheelbases than the 992. So as you see with the horsepower, obviously the Audi R8 has got the biggest horsepower there and it's the quickest, but it is the Quattro, so I would expect that to be faster to 60. 380 on the 992 is not too shabby there when you look at the 0 to 60 time against the 2 Ferraris. Again, they're all automatic cars, but the F430 has got the old F1 gearbox in, where the other ones have got dual clutches in them. If we take a look at the very first cost then, that is the road tax. Now, my road tax was $12.80 because it falls into the higher value cars on the brand new road tax system. On all the other 3 cars, they all fall into the £580 a year on the old road tax. The second one is insurance. What I did was I went back onto the comparison websites and I put all the details back in for the 992 to see what the insurance price was compared to what I originally paid back in March. As that was still the same price, all I did was swap the car specs on each quote so that all the information was the same, but the car was different to get the same accurate pricing. Again, Admiral came back the cheapest, and I'll start with the cheapest and I'll work to the most expensive. The cheapest, believe it or not, was actually the Ferrari F430. That came in at £658.56. The next cheapest was the California, and that one came in at £927.36. And the Audi R8 came in at £936.32. So the most expensive car there was the Audi R8. Remember, all three of those other cars are still at the 85 grand value mark. So again, insurance is a strange thing. It all falls into different calibers, but every single quote had exactly the same information on them. The third one is fuel. Now, I can't do what I did with my car in the previous video, which was work out how much I'd spent and then work out what my actual MPG was. What I've done is I've just pulled the combined MPG figure off of the Auto Trader listings, and that's what we're going to compare here to see how they'll match up to the 992. So my 992 is coming out at 27 MPG. It's got the WLTP figures, but I proved in the last video it's at about 27. The F430 comes in at 15.4, which is quite low. California comes in at 19.1, and the Audi R8 comes in at 21.1. So the Audi R8 came in closest to mine, but again, it's a bigger engine car, it's a different beast, but you know, it's quite close and quite good for a modern car. The fourth one is servicing. Now, I've had a bit of a dig around and it was much easier to find information for servicing Ferraris, especially at specialized dealers rather than a Ferrari authorized agent. What I've done is I found a specialist that actually showed all of their servicing costs for nearly every Ferrari make that they do. And on there you can see both the minor and major services. Now, the Ferrari F430 comes out at $599 for a minor and $1,450 for a major. The California comes out at $499 for a minor and $1,350 for a major. And I found online Lookers as a group publish all of the service costs for all of the car brands that they deal with as dealers. So there's an Audi one there. I found the information for it. Their minor service is $490 and the major service is $990. Now, I did have a look around. I still can't find a major service cost for my car, but I have found a Carrera 4911 service information from a year or so ago. I'll put that up on the screen now and you can see the minor service is $625, which is the same as mine. So I'm going to take the educated guess that they're probably going to charge me the same as the higher figure, which was $950. The fifth one is Tyres. Now, I've had a good look around on Black Circles and put the specs in, and the car with the most selection available for it is the Audi, which is the newest one, which doesn't surprise me. The other two, the Ferraris, the California was fairly easy to get tyres for by the looks, but the Ferrari F430 only had a choice of 3 for front and rear. I'll put the pictures up there now of those 3 choices. Again, tyres is a subjective thing. It depends what brand you want to put on, depends what quality you want to go for. Obviously the Pirelli P0s are what are on the 992, and that were the things that I got cost for in the last video. What I'll do is I'll put the price ranges up for each car on the screen and you'll be able to see how roughly they compare depending on how much you want to spend, how little you probably want to spend. So as you can see, they're all fairly similar and I don't think there's too much in the tyres. Again, it just depends how much you want to spend, but none of them are extortionate. They're all within the same ballpark. So after looking at all of that, what made me steer away and still go and put the deposit down on my 992? Well, the first thing was, again, I was worried about being able to get it parked in my car park. The wheelbase is just so far away. I don't want to spend my entire time scratching the underneath of the car. The other points really were that, one, I've got a warranty on the car. It's brand new. I get 3 years. Anything fails on it that's a Porsche fault, then they'll have to fix it. I don't have to deal with fixing anything that might come up unexpected that would have come up on the other 3 cars. Again, I think anything with Ferrari attached to it is going to cost a fortune. The Audi I was less worried about, but if I buy something 3 or 4 years old, I'm running straight into either the major servicing or probably new tyres. It just depends where I buy it from and who was servicing it and looking after it beforehand. And in the end, I've always wanted a 911. I could afford to do it. I could get a brand new one. It's got everything on that I want. And I also needed that reliable daily driver. I think the inner child in me screamed, you can afford a Ferrari, go for it. And then I watch YouTube channels of people pulling their F1 transmissions off and trying to figure out what happened to the hydraulics. And I just thought, I can't be sat at the side of the road wondering whether I'm going to get backwards and forwards today because my Ferrari broke. So there you go. That was a video about what I nearly chose instead of a 992 and the reasons why I eventually didn't. If you enjoyed today's video, if you could please give it a like. If you want to see more upcoming videos about the 992, then please hit that subscribe button, and thank you again for watching. See you later. Bye.